Welcome to SBU 67D Principles of Management 1. My name is Felicia Frida Aiden Aqua. We'll be looking at Unit 6, Organization. Our discussion today is going to focus on the nature of organization, which is session 1. By the end of this session, you should be able to explain organizing and organizational chart. You should be able to distinguish between formal and informal organization and explain the steps in organizing, as well as some advantages and disadvantages of the organizational chart. So what is organizing? Now we know organizing is one key function in the management process, and we know that every business, the fact you have an objective, you have a goal, you need to put in place some sort of measures to achieve these. Now, in everything you do, you need resources, you need to allocate things to be able to attain these goals you've set, and that is why organizing is very key if you are going to meet your objectives. So organization, like I said, is very important in the business world because it helps you with the structures which is appropriate. It helps you structure every aspect of your business in making your decisions and to help you effectively allocate your resources. And through organizing, we look at issues like the organizational structure, when it comes to reporting systems or who is under who, how things are supposed to flow, how work is supposed to flow, and all those ones. We look at the lines of communication. If you have a problem with your course, you just don't get up and go to provost or go to pro VC or go to VC. No, there is communication structure. Obviously, you may have to tell your center lead who would go and tell the coordinator for the region or something, and then it goes up in there. It also helps you know the necessary authorities that have been established in there as well. And so organizing encourages division of labor and establishes the necessary objectives which must be achieved by the various aspects of the organization, which ultimately or in the end helps to minimize cost and maximize efficient output. So like I was saying, it's all about meeting our goals and our objectives, and for us to be able to meet these, we need to be able to organize some resources in there to be able to achieve it, and that would include having the systems and structures as well as everything needed to get it done. So the importance of organizing: one is that clarity of individual performance expectations and specialized tasks. And another importance of organizing is that it helps with the division of work, which obviously helps avoid duplication, because if we know this is in charge of it, then we shouldn't give it to two or more people to be doing the same work. It also reduces conflicts and misuse of resources, both at the material and human resources. Another importance of organizing is that it helps us get a logical flow of work activities that have to be done by individuals and groups, and so you know who is supposed to do what at each point in time. It also helps establish the channels of communication, which helps in decision making and control. Like I said, if you have a problem with your course or with anything, you just don't get up and go to your provost, you just don't get up and go to your VC, or you just don't get up and go towards the public, the media, to talk about it. There are channels of communication for workers or for students and for everybody in here as well. It also helps in coordinating mechanisms that ensure harmony amongst the organization, which is often engaged in diversified activities. In organization, there are different roles, different duties, different responsibilities, different things that have to be done, different activities that have to be done to be able to achieve these goals. And in the end, as we're trying to organize, we're trying to be able to integrate all of this in a very holistic manner in meeting our objectives as well. So there's focused efforts that actually reflect the objectives in a very logical and efficient manner, where efficiency, we're looking at for the output compared to the input. We want better output compared to the quantity of input we are putting in there as well. So another key importance of organizing is that there's appropriate authority structures with accountability to enhance planning, monitoring throughout all the organization's hierarchy. At the end of the day, when we organize, one key thing that comes in is lines of authority, and this helps when it comes to planning and monitoring everything that we do in the organization as well. So some key elements in organizing is that one, the necessary activities are set forth in the plan that constitutes the foundation for organizing. Like I made mention, organizing is one function of the management functions, and we know management functions is planning, is organizing, leading, and then controlling. And so once plans are made, the next thing to do is to organize the resources, have the structures and systems that need to be in place for what those goals or those plans to be effective or to be met in there. And people who do this constitutes the second basic organization element. The work that has to be done must be considered in relation to the skills and abilities of the people who perform these activities. At the end of the day, if your organization is going to be effective, you need to avoid having square pegs in round holes. Sometimes it's a bit hard because of issues of nepotism and things, and so sometimes people are not even qualified for it. The skills they need, the abilities they need to perform those things are not there, but then you find them in that position. And so for organizing to be effective, you need to get the right people with the right abilities to perform these activities stipulated in. So the steps in the organizing process, after looking at the elements in the organizing process, is one, we need to look at what needs to be done. So the work that has to be done has to be spelled out first and foremost, which we'll find in our plan, and then this is usually broken down into what its component activities. So a plan has come, this is what we need to do, this is the main goal or the objectives. We then need to look out for breaking it down, because when we break it down, then we can assign people to it. Then we can also look at the various structures that we need to attain that various activity in there. And so once we've been able to break down the main objective or the main work to be done into its component activities, we then go on to build organizational structure, which is based on the work to be performed, the people who must do the work, and as well as the environment. Because you realize that when we're talking about the elements, we talk about people, not putting square pegs in round holes, and also the workplace, which is the environment in which we're going to do the main organizing. Then once this is all set, we then need to define clearly the authority, responsibility, and accountability relationship. So who is the one who is in charge of this particular thing? Who is supposed to do that thing, and who is supposed to be accountable for that thing? At the end of the day, we need to have someone to answer for the thing, whether it goes well or not. And so we need to be able to clearly define that, okay, Mr. Mensah is in charge of this particular activity. He is supposed to perform the activity. He is supposed to be accountable for it. Or Mr. Mensah is the one who has authority over this thing. However, he can also delegate it to this person. Now, this person is doing it, but it is Mr. Mensah's responsibility. As such, he is still accountable for that particular activity. Now, once we've moved from the steps, we need to look at some of the factors that affect how organizations are organized. First and foremost is the objectives we need to achieve. We made mention that this is usually spelled out in the plan. Secondly is the size of the organization. If you have a very large organization, you realize that you may have more structures and more systems in them, and things would have to be a bit more formalized. If it's a small organization, the structures, the systems, the authority lines, the responsibility lines, or the communication lines and things is going to be more narrowed. And so depending on the type and the size of the organization you are in, it's going to be different. Now, also when it comes to the type of product which is being produced or the type of service which is being provided, all of this is going to affect the type of organization or the type of organization that is going to go on in there, because at the end of the day, yes, in as much as there are some basic principles, we would organize each product line or each product or each activity differently from what the other product or the other service or project in them. And you also need to look out for some economic external economic environmental issues like this inflation and all these issues. They all affect all of us, and you'd have to look out for them in your organizing as well. So when it comes to external economic issues, you have no, like we made mention, they are in the these are part of our external environment, our general environment, which we have less control over, and they give us some sort of opportunities and threats we need to be able to work with. And these are all things that you'd have to factor in when you are doing organizing in your organization. Now, there are two main types of or forms of organization we can look out for. We have the formal and then we have the informal. Now, when it comes to the formal organization, these are usually well documented, well defined by management. So basically the system structures and everything, we know it. Like UCC, when it comes to UCC, we have our organizational chart, which is defined by management, is public. Everybody knows who is reporting to who is under who, and how things work here. So this is a very formal organization with formal organizational structures in there as well. So these are, like I was saying, they are clearly defined structure of authority and responsibility, usually well established communication systems. They have very relative stability and permanent, and then they expand in size and become complex as the organization grows. That's one thing about the complex, the formal organization. The informal ones usually come up as a result of people's interactions. So these are usually unofficial and they emerge spontaneously. So just like you have your formal reporting system, that if you have a problem as a student, you go to, let's say you have a problem with the course, you may have to prompt your lecturer that this is a problem you're having with the course, and then it may go up, and then if there's anything they need to do, maybe they push it to your head of department, they move it further to the college level, then it keeps going. These are formal. But informally, sometimes maybe you're in the same church with your lecturer or something, or you go to clubhouse with your lecturer, you see your lecturer at the clubhouse or something, you realize that sometimes the social environment, so you're doing sports with a person, at the end of the day, conversations and those social interactions and things, you can still talk about the thing without using the formal official means. And so the informal usually is based on personal or group interactions or needs of employees. Employees are social beings, and they need to be social, they need to interact with people and all those things. And so that is where the informal usually emanates from. So unlike the formal, which is having clear organizational structures and responsibility relationships, the informal just emerges and they are more of spontaneous, and these ones usually are undefined. Yes, and when it comes to the formal, there's well-established communication systems, but the informal, that is not present. And then the formal is more stable and permanent. That's how come it is recorded in there, but the informal is not, because you can be my friend today, tomorrow you're not my friend. Today I may be giving you all the gist, tomorrow I'm giving you the gist. And so that is how the informal can be. And as the organization becomes bigger and bigger, you realize that the formal becomes more complex. So you see a very long or tall organizational chart, which is super long, and you are finding so many people in there, so many positions in there. That is how it becomes as the organization grows up with a formal organization as well. So to move on, we're going to look at the organizational chart. And organizational chart is simple. It's all about having a diagrammatic or a pictorial or a visual representation of the structure of the organization. That makes it very easy for us to see or understand the organization at a glance. And so when you come to UCC and you see the organogram of UCC, organogram is the same thing as the organizational chart. So if you see the organizational chart or the organogram of UCC, it's going to tell you that, oh, okay, the top management, there's VC, there's Pro VC, and all these at the top. There's also the registrar. There's also this person there, this person there. Okay, there are this number of directorates in the university, and that is directorates of, let's say, that is directory. There are this number of provosts in there. It tells you the details and they go in there. So it is often described as a reporting structure of the organization, and it depicts the major positions and departments within the organization. If you go to a hospital and you see the organogram, you see who is the head, who is the MD, who is the main, the nursing manager, and all those ones, the various positions, the various functions they have, the various departments they have in there. That is the organizational chart. It's supposed to make it easy for us to also grasp it when we see the organization. So in all, it's a pictorial or a graphical representation or a visual representation of the structure of the organization. So some of the information which is provided in your organizational chart is one, the tasks which are carried out in the organization. So if you look at a typical educational institution's organizational chart, you see the various teaching staff, the non-teaching staff, or teaching support, and all those things. If you see a hospital's organization chart, you see the various labs and the type of how do you call it, when it comes to even the nurses, the doctors, they have where they fall in and all those things. If you see an engineering firm's organizational chart, it's also going to be different, and so the tasks being performed are always reflected in your organizational chart. You also see the subdivision of total organization. So you see, if it's any business, you see maybe there's management. Are they doing production? If they are doing production, there's going to be someone who's in charge of production department, as well as the various people under. If they are doing sales and all those things, you're going to see all these subdivisions in there. You also see the levels of management. So you see the top level, you see the middle level, you see the lower level. So you obviously see the MDs, the supervisors, you see the various functional heads in there as well, the HR managers, the procurement managers, and all those ones in there as well. You also see the lines of authority, who is in charge of what, or who supersedes what activity, and you see the reporting relationships, whether it is vertical, it is horizontal, whether it's even diagonal, or it's a line and staff kind of relationship. You see the type of relationships that also exist in that organization setting as well. Now, organizational charts come in different shapes and forms. We have basically the tall organization, which has more hierarchies. So in the picture I've inserted here, the top one is a tall organizational structure. You see a lot of hierarchies, like the UCC's University of Cape Coast organizational chart. You see a lot of hierarchies in there, and you see a long chain of what command, and you see small span of control. So you see the chain of command. So this person here is reporting to this, is reporting to this, it goes to this person, it goes all the way up. Then we come to the top most here. That is how it works. And you see the span of smaller span of control, the number of people who are really reporting to a particular manager, or the number of people a manager is supervising or overseeing. They are a bit smaller when it's a tall organization. For small organizations, there are fewer hierarchical levels. So this one, you realize that the levels from 1 we go to 2, and then we go to 3, and you see it's very short, it's flatter, and so there are fewer hierarchical levels. Usually for small businesses who have just started, you just have a smaller or fewer hierarchical levels in there. There's also a shorter chain of command and large span of control, and so the number of people who are under one supervisor may be like 20 or 10, plenty people to one supervisor. And so that is what happens in small organizations as well. Now, there's the effects of deficient organizational structure. If your organizational structure is not effective, it's going to influence obviously your costs, because you need money to draw all these things. That people are going to hire to write and draw all these things, and it goes with cost. And so if you don't take care, you end up drawing something which is not relevant, or it loses its relevance over time. And so that is one thing that comes in. There's also slow action. Now because most of this if you want to even review organizational structure, you may usually have a committee in place, and sometimes because of conflict of interest, this one says we should do it this way, this one says I shouldn't do it this way. Sometimes it can, like I almost said maker, it can easily slow down the pace of what the decision making when it comes to even the organization structure. Another thing that also comes up is divided responsibility. Because it's a committee, some people want to just hide in there, and they'll be like, no, this one wasn't my decision, it was a committee's decision, or was this person in there who rather did it this way, and that's how come it didn't work out, and all those things. And so these are some of the effects of deficient organizational structure. And so all in all, in this session we've been looking at the nature of management, where we specifically looked at the important steps and elements in organizing, as well as how the organization can be organized as well. Thank you.